And we're live. Hello and welcome, everyone. It's time for another exciting episode of IT Career in Australia channel. And tonight's topic is what does ML engineer do and how to become one. So join us for a dynamic panel discussion where our speakers will share their career paths and daily roles to illuminate what it means actually to be a machine learning engineer. This conversation will explore various roads to becoming a machine learning engineer, delve into everyday challenges they face, and offer some valuable insights for those considering or maybe transitioning into this promising field. The session aims to demystify the role, clearly define how actually machine learning engineer stand apart in the tech industry and provide some insights that pave the way to some aspiring professionals. So no matter if you're thinking about transitioning or just curious about the role, make sure have your questions ready and you can pop them into the comments. Or also you can always just say hi in the comments and introduce yourselves, because it's nice to know that you're here, you're listening to us. And at least if you say hi, we know that you're here. And I'm Jana Martins, if you forgot. I'm passionate about learning more about future and present of tech industry in Australia, and obviously sharing it with you on this channel. So again, tonight we're going to talk about what does machine learning engineer do and how to become one. And before I pass it on to our speakers, I'll just quickly do the usual drill to remind you that we're going live on LinkedIn and YouTube. So obviously, always encourage you to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can watch different replays from there. Also encourage you to join my meetup group. So we have a face-to-face event, so you can join me in a nice walk in Albert Park. I do it every 6 weeks or so. So if you're in Melbourne, definitely join the meetup group. And always encourage you to use this live stream, not only just to learn some new information, but to network with people in the industry. And we also have a nice surprise at the end of the stream too. So some people saying hi. James is here as usual. Thank you, James, for being here every week. Manalisha is here. Hi, everyone. Ram is here. Hi, Anna and panel members. Jifin is here. Thank you, guys, for staying with us. James is saying, can confirm tech walking is awesome. Thank you, James. Already some questions coming in. We didn't even start it. There's already questions. Okay, we'll definitely answer the questions. But before we do that, let's do the quick intros. So I'll just ask everyone quickly introduce themselves and we'll dive into it. And Slava, please start with you.
All right. Hi. My name is Slava Razbash, and I've misspelt my name, as you will see in the bottom left-hand corner. So I started working in this industry before ML engineering was a word, and data science was just a word in a couple of emails. So the year was 2011. And back then, the data scientist would try to productionize everything end to end, and we weren't using cloud too much. Everything was done with a lot of custom code, R or Python or both, take your pick. And then after lots of work in this industry, I also became officially called an ML engineer. And that's how I got into ML engineering. This was in the age of cloud, where my role was purely to productionize the work of the data scientists. And we had this production line where the data scientist would do the work that is the science, the experimentation, the build the model from scratch, and the ML engineer would go and productionize it. And the great thing about being an ML engineer is that it takes off a lot of pressure of, well, what if it doesn't work? And so, because you're already given something that works and you solve a problem that you definitely know is solvable. So, and now I'm working with Gen AI. I'm building a RAG chatbot in my current role.
Perfect.
So Yeah, that answers.
We'll come back to to more details in a second. Let's just do the quick round of intros so that everyone knows who's here. Tanya, please. Oh, and Slava, did I spell your name correctly?
Hey,
now?
thank you. Awesome.
No worries. Here you go.
Yeah.
We got that. Tanya, please, over to you.
Hey everyone, I'm Tanya, and so I started my career as an embedded systems engineer, and then I did my master's in machine learning at ANU. So that's the MLCV program, masters in machine learning and computer vision. And I worked as an ML engineer for almost 3 years, and now I'm a solution architect at Google. Right now, I'm onboarding, and I'm working on generative AI solutions.
Perfect. Thank you, Tanya. And Nathan, over to you.
Hey, as you can see, my name's Nathan Dines. I've been working full-time in the IT industry since 2011 through various roles, starting in infrastructure and software development and then cloud. So I did a lot of cloud solutions architecture and consulting. And then, gradually made my way over to the ML space. Moderately new to it, about 6 to 12 months in, but I mean, really an old hat for Slava apparently in the ML engineering space. That's me.
Thank you, everyone. So let's, I guess, dig in a little bit deeper into your journey. So I guess the question is it like what inspired you to actually move to the ML engineering? Yeah, and I also ask people this question: was it a deliberate decision? Maybe you went to school and decide, and in the year one, you're like, I'm gonna be ML engineer. Then I grow up, yeah, or it's just happened because it's a big question every time people ask. Because some people go to primary school and they want to be a doctor, and they know they're going to be a doctor. They clearly think their career path. But have you thought that you're gonna end up being ML engineer, or was it some moment in your life that was like, yeah, that's for me, that's what I want to do? And maybe we'll just go to the opposite order. Nathan, but what about you? Like, how did you decide to transition to this role?
Yeah, so I mean, kind of fell into accident. So like I mentioned, a lot of my background is around cloud and software. And then as things sort of became commoditized, some of these new projects came up, and the place where I'm right now, I got approached about a role with at the place I'm right now, and they had this interesting project which is in the ML space. And I thought, yeah, that sounds fantastic. And it's funny because everyone's sort of figuring things out, and I came in to provide a lot of that cloud expertise, but then also be involved in the ML stuff, and just naturally through the project, I've kind of been involved in the ML stuff to the point that that's actually a heavier part of my role now, and that's actually become the primary focus. And yeah, it's just been a very interesting ride. Like I said, not a deliberate, conscious choice, but it's definitely a good one. I'm very happy with how it's panning out.
Makes sense. Tanya, what about you? Did you dream to be an ML engineer?
I actually did my engineering in electrical and electronics, and I did not have any exposure to machine learning till that point. I mean, even though the concepts might be overlapping, in terms of math, but I was actually looking for something to do. So I was working at Qualcomm, and I was doing, I wanted to do a side project, and I sort of started, following people online. They were talking about deep learning, machine learning. This was, I think this was 2017. So a lot of people were working on computer vision. So all these big vision data sets were being constructed, right? Actually, yeah, people were training a lot of models in computer vision. So I started sort of doing that in my free time, and I realized like I could do this for the next 10-15 years and still it would still be fun. So that's how I sort of got into it. I think for the next like 1.5 years I would study on my own, and then I decided to do a master's because I wanted to like dive really deep into the math as well. So yeah, that sort of inspired me. I would say I really like the fact that with machine learning engineering, especially when you're working on, let's say, algorithms in more of a data science role, I would say, you don't know if it's going to work or not. And that's the exciting part. Like for me at that time, that was the exciting part. And I slowly sort of transitioned into a machine learning engineering role. Yeah, so I would say that was the point when I pivoted.
Yeah. So you find some inspiration in there.
Yes, yeah. I actually started with deep learning, not traditional machine learning. And then, so it was like a top-down approach. I started writing code, then understood the algorithms, and then sort of understood the entire lay of the land. So it was very much code first, top-down approach.
Yeah, makes sense. Slava, what about you? What was the tipping point for you?
All right, so I'll work backwards and jump around a little bit. So I was called ML engineer in 2021 or 2021. And prior to that, in 2019, I saw that as an industry, we really needed to solve this problem of how to productionize data science solutions. And rather than wanting to become an ML engineer, I started a conference called the Enterprise Data Science Architecture Conference, which was all around productionizing data science solutions in the enterprise. And that was fantastic, but it died of COVID. So after COVID, I was looking for a job, and this is perfect. This is what I was organizing a conference in. And so it was a natural fit. And what I particularly liked about this role also is that the role fits in a box. And data science doesn't fit in a box. As Tanya said, with data science, when you're building a model, you don't know if it's going to work. And corporations don't like that. So a company doesn't like a model, doesn't like a project that might work or might not. And I had gone for many years in a situation where I had to make it work. The buck would always stop with me. Even if something was a bit borderline, I still had to find a way to make it work. And ML engineering was this breath of fresh air where it's clearly defined, it's going to work. Someone else took that risk. So that was fantastic. And it was a great role.
Yes, yeah, we all want this ROI, to be visible. No one wants to invest in something that might not work. Even if it's we can't predict anything. I think with majority of things in life, we can't predict if it's going to work or not, no matter if it's a data engineering or something else. But look, so obviously you went to machine learning from the different different career paths. But do you think, is there such a thing as a typical career path for someone who want to become machine learning engineer? Is it such a thing that, you go, I don't know, maybe you go to uni, then you became, data scientist, you move there, or you software engineer and you then moving to ML? Is it such a thing, or there is no, like Nathan is start like no, he said maybe you start with Nathan.
Look, I think most commonly there's two general paths from which you might approach it. One would be from the software engineering side of things, and the other would be from the data science side of things. Those are probably the two most common paths. There may be some others, but that would really be it. And there it's going to really color the lens through which you view the problems. And that's actually where I think it's an interesting space to be, because you can have a team with several machine learning engineers, and they'll look at a problem in a slightly different way. And that actually really helps you get to quite a good solution. Because you can have those discussions and consider things in ways that you hadn't necessarily on your own.
Yeah. Tanya, what do you think? Is there some typical career path there? Or?
I'd agree with Nathan. Like, if we are talking about a typical career path, it's either from software engineering or data science. But I would also add that I've seen a lot of people who are self-taught And even if, let's say, they don't have an engineering background. So I know this person who, and this is an outlier, but I love to discuss outliers. So he had a BA in economics, so from an arts economics background. But then he was probably one of the best engineers, machine learning engineers I've known. He is one of the best. So that was, so the secret to his success in this field, I would say, was learning every day and then talking to a lot of people who are doing machine learning engineering. So I would say a typical career path, definitely, it's you need some CS background, you need an engineering background, some basics, but you can learn those on your own. I strongly agree. And some people even say that, okay, do you need math for this? I would say that yes, a background in math really helps you, even if you're just doing software engineering, but having a background in math that helps you to, let's say, optimize machine learning models. So that kind of a background does really help. So yeah, and I actually have seen a lot of people who started doing Kaggle projects and then they sort of pivoted into data science and then machine learning. So that also helps, doing a lot of projects and actually deploying. But again, that helps for data scientists more than it helps for machine learning. And then you can sort of pivot into machine learning. So yeah. And then I know we're going to discuss some sort of, data science versus ML. So I think that'll clarify later on as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. Slava, anything add to this? Or do you kind of agree to those typical career paths? Or have you seen different careers out there?
So you need two skill sets. You need data science and you need software engineering. And the other thing to mention, that these ML engineering roles are still quite rare. I think there's been an uptick in them in the past year or so. But there's still some people who would go between, say, a software engineer role and an ML engineer role at different times. So that's to keep in mind. The way I like to say it is, you need to know what you're actually productionizing, hence the data science skill set, and you need to know how to actually productionize it, hence the software engineering skill set. So just to answer some of the questions in the chat, and the first question is...
Let's wait for the questions.
It's related to this. It's related to this. So the question is...
The math background?
Yeah, the math background.
Yeah, okay.
So
the question from Shio, how much math background is required for ML engineer?
Yes, and that is enough to know data science.
How much is math background for the data science would be my next question.
How long is a piece of string?
I'd love to jump in on that one. Because I don't formally have a math background myself. But one skill set that I pride myself on is having a curious mind and having learning agility. So one thing that I've come to the table, so I've come with the software engineering background, but there have been elements of the data science side of things that I haven't understood as strongly through my ML engineering journey. And I've done research. I've looked it up, and it's really trying to learn the fundamentals of what you're working with and try and understand, okay, how does this fit into the scheme of things? I think that really is the most important thing, having that curious mind and having that hunger to learn. And beyond that, really, if you've got that, the sky's the limit.
I wonder, when we're talking about maths background, are we talking about like a higher education in maths, or we're just talking about any math background? Because like everyone learned maths at school.
Well, I was strong in maths in high school, but I didn't go for tertiary education formally in maths. So
yeah.
Well, in data science, you need to know probability theory, statistics, optimization, and linear algebra.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
A little bit of information theory helps as well. Optimization is very important. I agree with Slava. Otherwise, you don't know what the graphs are doing.
Yeah, and this is where you've got to look into those. You've got to look into those topics as you're if you don't formally have the background. you got to really research those topics heavily, and really put in the hard yards. Yeah.
Yep. Makes sense. And now when we sort of already talking about those key skill sets and technologies, I know that Tanya shared with us some skill metrics here. I'm going to bring it to the screen, and maybe we'll start with Tanya in terms of those to explain a little bit. We already touched about some math skills and software engineering skills, but yeah. So what the essential skills and technology every machine learning engineer should be proficient in? What sort of your overlook on those skills?
Yeah. So okay, let me first share like 3 important groups of skills that I would consider very important, and we've touched on that a little bit already. So Yana, if you go a little bit down, there is math, and then software engineering, and machine learning. So these 3 groups, they're sort of in the as you can see on the screen. Now in math, I've sort of listed down the level 2, which is probability, statistics, linear algebra, information theory, calculus, optimization, logic, scientific computing. You don't need all of them, but enough to understand how these sort of the basic concepts from these areas are being applied, and then how do they work together, right? And then
machine learning, it's a 4th column, so just everyone to follow.
Yeah.
That's the green column here. Yeah.
So yeah, when you look at green just means that, okay, these are really important for your role profile, and there are multiple role profiles. Machine learning is the 4th column, and as you can see that when you are in AI, when you're dealing with any AI product or solution, you kind of need to understand the entire life cycle. So you need to know about how to handle the data, how it's going to sort of go into your model, and how the deployment is going to go, and how it affects the business. Like even as a machine learning engineer, you kind of need to have a peripheral understanding. But then the skills that are really core to your day-to-day jobs, I would say math, software engineering, and machine learning. So when I say software engineering, it's like the basics, right? Scripting, cloud computing it's becoming more and more important. Design principles, CI/CD, dealing with APIs, distributed systems. But I would really like to add one thing. As a machine learning engineer, you don't need to know all of these, because you'll probably be specializing in 3 or 4, or like, a specific area. Let's say you're optimizing machine learning models. You'll need to know some math. You'll need to know some other ways to do this, right? So you probably will be working with distributed systems or something like that. And then when we go to the 3rd group of skills, which is machine learning, that's kind of having an idea about traditional ML algorithms, deep learning, because a lot of people are using them now, right? Training the models, testing, optimizing, deployment, A/B testing, MLOps, and prompt engineering is something we are dealing with more and more now. So yeah, I think that's what I would recommend.
Yeah, the main ones. What skills ML engineer don't need according to this? Let's see. The product management doesn't need the product management as much.
Yeah.
Not so, as much. Yeah. Thank you, Tanya. So, Slava, what do you think about that list of skills, and what would be your take on this? Which one is you feel like the most essential ones?
Great matrix. I have a more high-level view of just the data science skill set plus the software engineering skill set. I haven't read this PDF file today, so yeah.
Yeah. Nathan, anything to add to the skills? So it looks like a great, great list here.
It's a good list. Again, along a similar vein to Slava, to take a high level view of it, I think there are a lot of technical skills which are really important, such as the ones listed in this document. I think that another really core component to a successful ML engineer is really communicating, being able to talk with business stakeholders as well, and get a real view of what problem we're trying to solve. Because often what will happen is someone will come to you and say, "Oh, I've got this solution I need building," and really you need to take a step back. You need to unwind that and say, "Hang on a sec, hold on a sec. what problem are you trying to solve? I don't need to build a solution. I need to know what problem you're trying to solve and really get a good understanding of what you're doing. That's probably the biggest thing. And obviously, yeah, software development, data management, data analytics, but communication and business analysis is another one which often gets overlooked when people are discussing skills.
Yeah, definitely. And I think with, to be honest, with any role, as long as you're progressing with your career, you can't just avoid communication skills and just think like, I'm just great engineer. I'm just not gonna do any communication skills. I'm just gonna stay technical and just code more. And we actually talk a lot about this in this channel. Every time we talk about some career progressions, it always comes to working on your soft skills and things like system thinking and curiosity and active listening and things like that, you can actually apply to any profession, and you do need it to progress in any business. And I suggest we look at a few questions here. Abai Habs is saying, I'm studying Masters of Machine Learning and Computer Vision at the moment. And Manalish is asking, for starters, what kind of project would you suggest, or where do you start with this? I think, Tanya, you were mentioning about that it's great to start with some projects. Do you have any suggestions in terms of how people can start with the projects?
I would recommend leveraging your current skills to find either a freelancing project or to connect with people and just, maybe try and do a project for free. That, okay, I have software engineering skills, for example, and I'd like to utilize them to help you deploy a model. Most companies are low on resources, so people would love that. So you can try that, or maybe start with Kaggle projects, form a group, participate in a competition. That would really help as well.
Slava, do you have any addition to that?
No, that's a pretty good idea. The only other addition is try to get a related job and use that as your first project.
True. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Nathan, anything to add?
Yeah, look, that seems like a good way to go. If you're going to, like, if you're just trying to do something yourself in your own space, YouTube can be a great resource for just seeing what other people have done, and then tackle those problems in a different way, or maybe finding a data science project that someone else has done, again on YouTube, and then maybe think about how you can extend that and productionize it, get it running in a runtime environment, and be like, okay, cool, this is I can actually have this functioning, because you will hit issues in doing that, and then you'll have to solve those issues, and that'll just give you more experience. Also
film YouTube video about the project that you're building while you watch another YouTube video. The power of YouTube. Actually, I always say, like, when you're starting something new and you're moving to maybe transitioning to some different career, it's actually quite useful to stay vocal on social medias and actually sharing what you're learning as you go, because the people that will help, if you're sharing what you're learning or trying to do some project, it will be people who give you some suggestions what you're doing, like right, wrong. If you open about it, and if you're sharing and posting it on any social media or any networks, it doesn't need to be public social media. So I think it's always helpful to keep it public, so that people can comment and give you some feedback and things like that. We have a question from Irfan. Could you please share some books or trainings? So Nathan, do you have any favorite books or trainings on machine learning engineering?
Yeah, I've got a couple of books, but the number one that I would recommend that really gives a really thorough overview is a book called Machine Learning Engineering by I think I'm pronouncing it correctly, Andrei Burkov. It's available for free online, but if you like it, I suggest you pay him some money. You can buy it as well. But he does publish that on his website. And then if you're like me and don't formally have a background in mathematics, but want to upskill in that particular space, there is some heavier reading which you can do is Introduction to Statistical Learning, which I've used as sort of a foundational piece to give me some of that background. Those two resources would probably be the main two I'd suggest for a beginner.
Yep. I'll make sure I'll grab the links from you so I can pop them in the comments after the stream as well. Slava, what about you? What's your favorite books and trainings?
Favorite books and trainings. So in terms of training, I have a course online, but it's a Gen AI course. It's not an ML engineering course.
We'll make sure we'll put it in the comments as well.
Awesome. Will do. And so firstly, you need to know Python, number one. And actually, I created a GPT that teaches you Python. I'll put the link up. But somehow you need to learn Python. A lot of this stuff is done in Python. Somehow you need to learn cloud. And so pick a cloud and find somewhere to learn that cloud. In terms of Azure, I had a lot of initial success with the old Microsoft Learn. And then I started looking at a cloud.guru. But then sometimes with these courses, what you'll find is they're very much more focused towards getting you to complete the certificate and get your certificate and pass the test and answer multiple choice questions rather than actually have the skills. So you've got to go out there and try to get a project done. Or if you have a job, you just learn that little area of cloud that you need for your role. Then, okay, you need to learn data science. And where to start? Okay, the intro to statistical learning has been mentioned. There's another, so that book is supposed to be the introduction to another book called The Elements of Statistical Learning by Hasty Friedman and Tib Shirani. You can find that online for free. It's called LM Stat Learn, and that built a lot of careers around 2014. What it doesn't have is the latest developments on deep learning, and I started with Hinton's Coursera course way back in the day initially, and then I attended NIPS, I attended ICML, I read the papers, and to really understand the fundamentals of neural nets, I read the 1980s papers. But I digress. So I'll post my trainings in the comments, but that's the best I've got.
Yeah. Tanya, is anything we missed? Any books that you like?
So yeah, I think Nathan and Slava, they've covered a lot. I'd still like to add a few things that I find that just work for me whenever I want to refresh a concept. Papers are really good. So what I do is I read review papers, because papers are generally 2 to 4 years ahead of books. That's what I've sort of seen. And people keep publishing, especially the speed of publishing now is immense. So I would say maybe start with a review paper that covers the concepts. And then you can sort of go into books. And what I use is the Mathematics for Machine Learning. Yeah, Mathematics for Machine Learning. It sort of covers a lot of the ML basics, and it's a very approachable book. So you can start with that. It's sort of like an intro to machine learning book. But it doesn't, so the thing is, once you start reading the theory, you want to practice it. So what I would recommend is go to fast.ai, which is, it covers, it has a course on deep learning. It has, I think, 2 courses on deep learning and 1 course on traditional ML algorithms as well. I found that really helpful when I was learning, and I still find it really helpful, actually. For software engineering, what I did was I tried to read the classics like Clean Code, Pragmatic Programmer. That really helped me. And then I follow Aryan Codes. I don't know if anyone's heard of him, but he has some advanced Python courses as well. So I did that. As Slava said, that advanced Python is really essential. So yeah, there's like learning Python, and then there's sort of upskilling in Python, because like once I learned Python, I didn't know where to go, so I just took that advanced Python course. And then for ML ops, I would recommend fullstackdeeplearning.com. We can share the link later. For cloud computing basics, I agree. A Cloud Guru is good, but again, yeah, projects are the best way to upskill. I would really recommend linear algebra from Gilbert Strang. His books are amazing. So that is another thing that you can try. And then the last recommendation would be Kevin Murphy's machine learning books. He has a series of 3 books, and I found them more approachable than any of the other books I've read. So yeah, that's my recommendation.
Here you go. We have like a massive list. So once I put it all in the comments, it will be a whole library of on machine learning. So I'll make sure I'll grab all these links from you guys after, so I can pop it in the comments. We have quite a few questions coming through. Raymond is asking, most of machine learning openings on the job searching websites require at least 3-5 years of machine learning working experience and very familiar with the workflow. What would you suggest to do as the first machine learning job? Who wants to answer that question? Slava.
Yes, so probably your first machine learning job will not be an ML engineer job. It'll be either a software engineer job or a data scientist job or a data analyst job. And because you need to show competency in one of those fields. Then you, for maybe your second or third role, you might jump into an ML engineer role.
So basically, if you graduate the machine learning, there is no such a thing as, I don't know, graduate machine learning engineer, or those roles is really rare.
Well, this industry changes like the wind. So at the moment, so what we found even before we started the live stream, I think at least 3 of us or 2 of us are in Gen AI already. So things are changing very fast in this industry, and certainly the best thing a graduate can do is, right after finishing uni, is to jump into a grad role for a large company, and then have that large company train them and build up their career, and before they know it, they'll have 2 to 3 years on their resume and they won't be called graduate anymore. Yeah. So that's the ideal path. And then they will be led by the hand into an area where that company needs them, and probably similar companies will need them as well.
Tanya, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, like, thinking about this from first principles, what does someone who has, let's say, 3 to 5 years of experience, what do they have that someone who's just graduated, what they do not, right? It's not about, let's say if you've studied the math basics, you've done the basic stuff, right? It's about the systems thinking, right? It's, what does experience give you? It gives you a lot of systems level thinking. It gives you a lot of experience in, let's say, debugging or these kind of things. So focus on getting jobs that'll give you those skills. So for example, you can work as a systems engineer, or you can work as a QA engineer, right? Or you can work as a software engineer who's deploying something else, not machine learning models, but something else, right? So you can chart your career based on skills, not the job title, because you need to get those skills in your resume or in your under your repertoire to actually get a machine learning job. So even if, let's say, there's a job that says 3 to 5 years of experience in ML, if you can demonstrate that I have the required skills to be able to do the job, you should apply for it. So don't let that deter you, but also get the skills required, because once you're in that position, you'll be working independently. 3 to 5 years, yes, you're working independently, deploying the models. And yeah, basically sometimes you're the sole person in the company who's deploying, and if something goes wrong, you need to fix that. So I would say get the skills required skills.
Makes sense. Let's just cautious about the time. Let's jump to the next question. So there's a lot of questions today. Rama is asking, can you take us through a particular use case where machine learning is useful? What is the problem machine learning solve? I would be interested to know about use case applying machine learning in cybersecurity. Does anyone want share some example?
Sure, I'm happy to jump in. So let's focus on cybersecurity now. I haven't worked in cybersecurity but I'm going to contrive a potential use case. And one thing that we could have is, let's say we have an online store, and in that online store, part of those transactions are going to be fraudulent. So there's going to be people who will be purchasing items, maybe with stolen credit cards. And what we need to do is we need to detect which of those purchases are fraudulent and to stop them from coming through. And if you have a small shop, you might think, oh, what is it? $10, $20, big deal. But when you have a large shop like Amazon.com, that is going to be in the millions. So you need to save millions of dollars from being defrauded. So what do? You build a machine learning system that is going to classify between fraud and not fraud, or it might come out with a score, a number between 0 and 1 of propensity to be fraud, and then you would have to have a cutoff point. So probably what's really useful is fraud, not fraud, rather than a propensity to be fraud in this case. So the challenge with this is that very few transactions are actually fraudulent. So you're going to have a tiny amount. So if you're classifying ones and zeros, you're going to have a tiny amount of ones, less than 1%, and you're going to have a lot of zeros. And that's going to be a huge challenge. So it's not going to be just something, it's not just going to be applying something that you copied off YouTube. So there's one example. How's that?
I like that example. I think, it's even I understood what you're trying to solve here. Here we go. So it was like, guys, I guess on that topic. So what sort of you find the most challenging in machine learning engineer role? So what's I don't know if you have some examples of the biggest challenge you face in the role, and I guess how to overcome it. So Tanya, do you have some examples of those?
I would say from my personal experience, the amount of information, I feel overwhelmed sometimes by the pace that the field is changing at. And I also had a lot of FOMO that I'm working on this part, but I'm missing out on a lot of other interesting stuff. So I would say that is challenging. Another thing would be the number of tools. So a lot of new tools are coming out for engineers to, deploy or optimize models or, other things. Also, you can use a lot of different cloud providers. So it seems overwhelming initially, but the way I've dealt with is, first of all, recognizing that everything is, so these are all abstractions, right? But everything, let's say the cloud providers, they all provide a similar service, right? So understanding what are the basic components of my job, what are the things I need to perform my job, and then sort of categorizing the tools that I need to best do my job, and then understanding what are the trade-offs, as any engineer would. So understanding the trade-offs and then selecting the right tools and sort of giving time to this process. I would say that's very important. Instead of just like diving deep right into building the solution, I think it really helps to just take a step back, understand, really drill down on the problem, understand what are the tools you can use, and then start building. And I always like to say this, we do need to think as machine learning engineers before we start building a solution. Do we even need machine learning for this, or can we do it some other way, right? That's always a good first step. And then sort of building on to it, I would say. And actually, another challenge that I would like to add is defining success criteria is very important, because one solution can actually get you, let's say, 80% of the way, and you just like, how you're happy to deploy it and it works. But clarifying that is really important. Even as a machine learning engineer, you should sort of know that what are my business reliability requirements. And that's more of, I would say that's more of a data scientist job if you have a data scientist in the team. But I've been part of organizations where, let's say, I was a machine learning engineer, but that doesn't mean that I'm only deploying solutions. I'm also working on building those prototypes, then deploying them. So I would say it just depends. The role title doesn't really matter. It's very much like it changes a lot. So understanding what your day-to-day looks like is very important.
Yeah, looks a lot of components. What about you, Nathan? What was the biggest challenge for you? Or
Yeah,
maybe
look,
it is
I'd
a
say the
big
biggest
challenge for you right
challenges. I'd say the biggest challenges are so one is getting a nice, good, complete, and clean data set. That's one thing which everyone will always have a challenge with. You got to make sure your stakeholders and everyone understand what information that actually needs to go through the system, and that kind of leads into the other big challenge is being able to take people on the journey. At the moment, machine learning to many people is a black box. You just put something in and you get something magical out. And it's very important that you're able to take other people on that journey as to what it is, what's required to train a model, what you can expect out of a trained model once it's in production. And again, all about communication and really making sure everyone's on the same page. Because if you've got misalignment, you're guaranteed to fail. If you can get everyone on the same page and really all be heading in the same direction, it really sets you up for success.
Yeah, makes sense. Slava, is your challenges different or similar?
Yeah, no, mine were quite different. So tight deadlines, undocumented cloud APIs. So for example, I was using Azure and I had to get this parallel run step to work in an Azure ML pipeline, and it wasn't documented. So I got it to work through trial and error, and then productionized it. It was fantastic. And then they released version 2. So all of that knowledge was upgraded into version 2.
There you go. So looks like it's quite a few challenges there and the different ones. I'm cautious about the time. Maybe we have a few questions, but they're quite specific. I think Rama and Jithin, we might take those ones offline because let's go a bit more in the technical details. But I guess, guys, what's a few last questions from me. What sort of future trends do you foresee in the field of machine learning and AI? So, what is it? A good career to be in? So, do you think we can see a lot more machine learning roles opening up, and more career opportunities? What do you think? What is your opinion on the future trends? I guess I'm not asking for any data sets for that. So. Slava, what do you think?
It's a great career until further notice.
You never know what's around the corner.
Exactly.
Tanya, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd agree with that, definitely. But the other thing is, if someone's really interested and they like the day-to-day, I would encourage them. And the other thing is, jobs are going to change. And it's going to happen faster now. The pace of innovation is faster, so that's going to happen. But as long as we keep learning and adapting, I think it should all go in a good direction. That's like in a general good direction and upward trajectory. I see that like just based on what I've been looking at in terms of what kind of companies are getting funded and all these areas, I see healthcare as a huge opportunity, which I think everyone sort of must have seen. Another thing is embodied AI, which I'm really interested in. A lot of companies are working in that. area as well. So yeah, I think it's an exciting field, definitely. Yeah, so if someone likes to learn constantly, it's a very good field to be in.
Nathan, what are you thinking
Yeah,
about
I
how
100%
the future
agree.
looks for
It's
you?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. It's an exciting place to be, and look, and something new comes out every single day. So it's definitely seems like it's a good place to play. And yeah, if you'll know that something. I don't know. We're still yet to reach the point at which everything's commoditized. So and until we reach that point, it's going to be a lot of fun. And I don't see us reaching that point for a few years. So yeah.
And what's is it such a thing like a typical career progression for someone who's a machine learning engineer? So I guess maybe Tanya, you move more like in the social solution architect role. Is there so what sort of is there such a thing as a typical progression from machine learning engineer?
Okay, so I've looked at a few profiles, let's say on LinkedIn, looking at people's progression when I was planning my own. So I would say it depends a lot on what you want to do. For example, if you want to stay as an very hands-on, I would say like from an engineer, you sort of go into that path, principal engineer kind of path, senior engineer, principal engineer. So that's one progression. Another way is to get domain expertise in an area. So you can be more like a principal data scientist in a particular company in a particular domain. And then that leads to either, let's say, sort of running a team that works on a specific product. So the engineering pathway can lead you down to VP engineering kind of roles as well if you're in a product company, or if you're in a service-based organization, that's again, principal engineer, and then depending on what the other roles are. And it also, like, for someone who's deciding their career paths, it's good to ask yourself, like, would you go into more people management roles, or would you want to stay in the technical kind of roles, right? Because as you progress, definitely leadership skills and people management skills, they will come into play. So what would you prefer doing? And the day-to-day will change as well, right? And then yeah, I would say it really depends on the team size or the kind of company you want to work for as well. The role in startups would look much different than, let's say, you join a big company. So yeah, just I don't see a typical progression path. It's everyone just sort of charting their own, depending on what's the kind of work they want to do day to day, and what are their strengths, or what are the things they want to develop.
Yeah, makes sense. Slava, anything to add to this? How do you see your career progressing?
Oh, how do I see my career progressing? So I see my career progressing into generative AI. So I think that's where it's going in at least the next 2 years. However, going forward, this Gen AI wasn't very popular up until very recently. So, we might have another fun. And actually, this touches on, so there's just a question that's come up in the comments.
From Mark?
And yes.
Yeah, Mark, you're like happening kind of warm here. So it's we probably weren't going to go deep into this question, but at what point ML and AI becomes smart enough that engineers are no longer needed, or will there always be a place for engineers? It's like a separate stream on that. But if we need to answer it in 30 seconds, what would be the answer?
I would say there will always be a place for engineers, because even as we automate one thing, so for example, AutoML has automated something that data scientists used to do. But then there's going to be someone else to use the thing that automated the previous thing. So we're going to keep inventing work for ourselves to do.
Yes, automating automation.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Guys, I'm cautious about the time. We have 5 minutes left of our stream. So it's an exciting time for the giveaway. So I'm going to do announcement for the next week. And while I'm doing this, our speaker is going to look through the comments and choose one person from the comments that they can have a virtual coffee chat with. And then there's a chance to obviously for you who's listening to ask more questions and connect and network with the people in the industry. So while I'm doing that, where's my announcement? Here we go. Next week, Wednesday, 8th of May, we have a light tech resume reviews and feedback session. So at this session, if you email me your resumes, we're gonna actually review them live and give the feedback. So go to my meetup group with event and email address there, so where you can send your resume. And if you would like to receive the live feedback, make sure to email it before the 8th of May. We'll try to go through all the resumes, but usually probably, we'll have a chance for like 6 or 7. So if you haven't sent it, please make sure to send it to my email address. So it's great for, and it's great to watch this session, even if you don't send your resume, because then you can obviously pick up on the feedback and understand what recruiters and hiring managers might look for in the resume, and how the first impression is important, and someone just open your resume as well, so that we sometimes forget about it. Okay, so that will be next week, and we already choose some winners. So Nathan is gonna have a chat with Raymond. So I'm just looking. Raymond's here. Okay, Raymond. Raymond, make sure that we connected on LinkedIn, so I can connect you with Nathan, so you can book the coffee chat. Tanya, how did you choose Tanya? Malisha, here we go. Malisha. Again, Malisha, if you're not connected on LinkedIn, make sure to add me on LinkedIn so that I can follow up and make sure you have a coffee chat. And who else is our winner? Mark, I'll make sure I'll connect you with Slava, so you can, have a deep discussion on AI replacing the engineers in the near future. So, thank you everyone for joining us. There's a few questions we hadn't had the chance to answer, but we'll try to take it offline and put it in the comments. I think there's a few questions about building enterprise models for enterprise level. So it's, we're not gonna go to that at the moment. And Rama has a bit more questions about that fraud case that Slava you mentioned. So if you have a chance to reply in the comments, that would be great. And so we have 2 minutes, and in these 2 minutes, guys, if you can summarize in like 30-second answer, what advice would you give to aspiring engineer who would like to be machine learning engineer this year, 2024, let's say. So if you need to summarize all our discussion in the 30-second advice, what would be your advice to people who's listening? Anyone want to start first? Anyone has the advice off the top of the head?
Okay. So for me, it's the same advice I would give to any role that I've done in the past. Network, and do the hard yards to really get the experience that you need. It's not going to be handed to you. You are the one who has the biggest vested interest in your career. So yeah, go out there, network, and learn something new at every opportunity.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And there is online opportunity to network like this, but there's also a lot of meetups and the conferences around as well. And Slava, are you still organizing the conference or meetups yourself or not?
So no, the conference, I'm not organizing the conference anymore. Mm-hmm. I am publishing online courses. So that's the best way to get more content from me and connect with me on LinkedIn. And the one piece of career advice I'd also add is walk through the open doors. So you'll find that it's relatively easy to get a job in something, and that's related to your skill set. And that might be where the skill shortage currently is. And it may not be what you had in mind, but then suddenly you'll become the expert in that thing. And suddenly then you'll be on the webinar.
100%. Yes. Working open doors. Sometimes we turn down the opportunities that could actually lead us to much bigger opportunities. So yeah, never underestimate some opportunities that actually comes your way as well. Tanya, and the last one from you, please.
I'd say something that's worked for me is investing in myself, both time and money. So like I buy a lot of courses, a lot of books, and I read like 20% of those. I finish 20 to 30% of that, but it's enough. So I would say don't be scared to, just try out a lot of things. Even if it doesn't work, I'm pretty sure you'll learn something, and you can leverage that 20 to 30% to actually get much higher returns. So the best investment is yourself. Always remember that.
100%, 100%. Thank you, Tanya. And exactly right. You always have a right to change your mind. If you bought 5 books and only read 2 books, you read 2 books.
Exactly.
If you don't buy any books, you don't read any books. So, like, so it's definitely a really, really good strategy there. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for all the comments and questions. We'll try to answer those questions in the comments, and I'll make sure I'll post all the links to the books and resources we talk about. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us. Thank you guys for your time tonight, and I'll see everyone next Wednesday. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.